In this segment, we'll hear from IT2 Leslie Ann Matos about the impact of her husband's combat stress reaction on their relationship. He was deployed with ground forces in Iraq while she served on the USS Nimitz. I asked her what the period of separation was like.
It was hard not being able to talk to my husband while he was in Iraq for 6 months. There was no email. My letters were being returned. I couldn't call him. He couldn't call me. I had no idea where he was, so it was hard.
And he actually returned home before you did. Can you tell us a little bit about what concerned you once he was able to communicate with you?
I noticed from the first few phone calls when I was able to call him that he was very depressed. He didn't seem to care about anything. He was very argumentative all the time over nothing. At times I feared that he was suicidal and I wasn't there to help him.
That must have been very difficult for you. Once you returned home and were actually with him, what behaviors or things did you notice that concerned you?
Well, for the first week we were okay. I think he was happy that I was home safe with him. But then it got to the point where we would argue about the smallest things. He would get very agitated very quickly. And all of our arguments led back to situations that happened in Iraq.
What was it like for you to be around someone who was depressed and angry most of the time?
His attitude brought me down. I stressed out. I turned angry. And instead of trying to help him, I felt like I argued with him more. And that didn't make the situation any better.
Were there any particular physical symptoms that you noticed that he was having that concerned you?
He would kick and punch all night. He would talk in his sleep, and he would talk about killings.
Sometimes when people return from combat and operational experiences, they talk with their family about the fact that they feel guilty about some of those experiences. Was that something that your husband shared with you?
With my husband being a corpsman, he feels like he has a duty to save everyone's life. And obviously there was people that didn't make it. And I told him that he wasn't God and he couldn't save everyone, but that didn't seem to get through him.
At what point did you suggest that your husband needed to get some help?
While I was deployed, I suggested it to him, but he wanted to wait until I arrived so I would go along with him. The behavior worsened, didn't get any better, so I thought it was time to go and try to get some help.
What do you think was stopping him from seeking help?
I think he was ashamed because he's been able to handle so many situations in the past, like a quote-unquote grown man, and this he couldn't handle it as well as he expected to.
What have you noticed about your spouse since he started treatment?
He's been doing better. We still have our occasional arguments that will go back to war incidents, but he is getting better, and he talks to me more, so I understand him. He's not as depressed. He handles situations better, not as irritable. Our marriage is better. We can go out. I don't have to worry about him going off on anybody. So we're doing good.
And finally, what advice would you give other family members that are dealing with service members who have combat stress reactions or post-traumatic stress disorder?
It is hard, but just stick by them, try to understand them, and things will get better. They went through a tough time out there. Even if they say that they don't need help, just keep pushing them, and they'll thank you in the end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
IT2 Mata's story illustrates some of the issues that families face when a service member returns from a deployment, struggling to cope with their reactions to the traumatic experiences they have faced. Everyone, not just the service member, can be impacted by the symptoms and behaviors of combat stress reactions. If you are a family member in the same situation, your service member needs your continuing support, even if they act like they don't want it. You may find yourself feeling sad and frustrated, and that's entirely normal. Seek help for yourself if you need to. It is essential that you keep encouraging your service member to get help. They may tell you that they'll get over it in their own way and to stop bugging them. This may work in some mild cases, but if they continue to be angry, moody, or withdrawn, or they are abusing alcohol or other substances, you need to persist. Check with your Fleet and Family Support Center or Marine Corps Community Services to find out what programs are available for your family member and share that information with them. Offer to go with them for their first visit. If the behaviors become dangerous, don't hesitate to contact your service member's command, chaplain, or medical officer. Insist that your service member get the help they need. With your support, they can start on the road to recovery.